Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. A massive shout out to the vibrant professional community joining us, especially our Spanish-speaking friends tuning in from all over. If you've been banging your head against the wall trying to figure out project management and agile methodologies, well, you are in the exact right place. Today, we are completely demystifying the Scrumban framework. We're going to break down exactly what Scrumban is, how the framework actually works, its biggest advantages, and check out some real-world examples. So grab a coffee and get ready to take some mental notes. Let me ask you something. Are you guys just exhausted by endless planning meetings and those constantly interrupted sprints? Think about your own day-to-day workflow for a second. Are you super frustrated by tasks that just sit there, totally blocked? Or maybe your perfectly planned sprints get completely derailed by urgent, unexpected requests by, like, Wednesday. If that kind of workflow fatigue sounds familiar, trust me, you are absolutely not alone. All right, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We've got 6 quick sections. What is Scrumban? The debate of myth versus reality, step-by-step operation, advantages and disadvantages, real-world success examples, and finally, should your team adopt it? Okay, let's jump right into section 1. What exactly is Scrumban? To really understand this hybrid, we kind of have to look at its parents. On one side of the family tree, we have Scrum. It's rigid, it relies on fixed-length sprints, usually 1 to 4 weeks long, and has very strict prescribed rules. It gives you fantastic predictability, but honestly, low flexibility. Now on the other side, we have Kanban. This is all about continuous flow. No prescribed roles, just pure visual management. It's incredibly adaptable, sure, but it demands a ton of self-discipline. So you've got 2 completely different ends of the Agile spectrum here. So what happens when they get together? Scrumban is exactly what it sounds like. A structured hybrid framework. It takes the strategic planning and those alignment ceremonies of Scrum and it marries them with the continuous pull system and visual board of Kanban. And let me just clear the air. Right now, this is not just a convenient excuse to skip your Agile meetings. It is a legitimate, data-driven middle ground. It's designed to give you that optimized value delivery without all the operational stiffness. Which brings us to section 2, the debate. Myth versus reality. You know, not everyone in the Agile community is totally convinced by this framework, and the origin story is actually pretty fascinating. The term was coined back in 2008 by a guy named Corey Ladas. But here is the wild part. Ladas didn't actually invent Scrumban to be a permanent thing. He designed it as a transition method, a stepping stone to help teams move away from Scrum and towards more advanced Lean and Kanban systems. But the industry found it so incredibly effective, they basically took this temporary bridge and moved in. They made it a highly stable, permanent operating model. So the real takeaway here is this. That skeptical perspective, it really only holds up if a team uses the word hybrid to justify total chaos. True Scrumban relies heavily on empirical metrics. You're measuring things like lead time and enforcing strict visual discipline. It thrives on data, and it absolutely falls apart when it's just used to dodge commitment or skip out on planning. Let's get into the actual mechanics. Section 3, how it works step by step. There are 6 core phases you need to know. First up, you build a highly detailed visual board that maps your exact workflow. Second, you set WIP limits, and I'll explain that in just a second. Third, on-demand planning, meaning you only plan when your backlog hits a certain minimum threshold. Fourth is daily execution, where your daily stand-up is entirely focused on unblocking tasks on that board. Fifth, you've got concurrent qualities, so testing as you go. And finally, metrics and continuous improvement. It all creates this beautiful closing loop that constantly optimizes how you work. I really want to zoom in on step 2 for a moment, because it is literally the beating heart of Scrumban, work in progress, or WIP limits. Think of your team's workflow like a massive highway. If you let 1 million cars onto the highway all at once during rush hour, you don't get a steady flow of traffic, right? You get a total standstill. WIP limits are the traffic lights on the on-ramp. By strictly capping how many tasks are allowed in a column at any given time, you prevent people from overloading, you instantly spot bottlenecks, and you keep the actual work flowing smoothly. Moving right along to section 4, advantages and disadvantages. Let's be real, every single system has its trade-offs. On the plus side, Scrumban gives you insanely fast task unblocking, huge flexibility for those urgent drop-everything requests, and it drastically cuts down on meeting fatigue. But there are downsides. Because you are accelerating delivery, it can sometimes squeeze your quality assurance phases, and that brings a very real, documented risk of bug leakage, meaning defects actually making it into production. Plus, as your internal team gets faster and faster, your biggest bottlenecks just shift externally. You end up waiting on external business approvals instead. All right, Section 5, Real-World Success Examples. Because theory is great, but does it actually work out there? 51%. Let that number sink in for a second. This comes from an amazing case study at the multinational energy giant Galp. Their data engineering teams were totally bogged down by complex pipelines and external dependencies. So they adopted Scrumban, they enforced those traffic light WIP limits, got serious about their visual boards, and boom, they successfully slashed their project lead time by 51% in just 6 months. That is massive, measurable efficiency. And the coolest part? This isn't just for software developers. A multidisciplinary team at INDT used it to sync up software engineering with actual physical hardware manufacturing. It's even been used in civil engineering. Imagine building single-family homes using Scrumban? Well, they did, and it totally improved their schedule performance. Distributed teams across Finland and Italy used it for global development, and it's even running academic role-playing simulations at UniOFA in Brazil. The cross-industry versatility here is just wild. Which leads us to our final part, Section 6. Should your team actually adopt it? Before you go ripping up your current rulebook, you need to watch out for these massive red flags. Scrumban is a terrible idea if your team lacks basic visual discipline. If people are too lazy to update the board, the whole thing tanks. It's also super difficult to pull off if you're chained to inflexible physical manufacturing dependencies or rigid supply chains. And most importantly, if management just wants to call things hybrid to cover up operational chaos without actually committing to getting better, this framework will implode. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. Look at your team right now. Do you guys actually possess the maturity to drop the rigid safety nets of Scrum in favor of continuous flow and empirical discipline? Remember, Scrumban is not about having fewer rules. It's about having smarter, data-driven rules. I challenge you to take a hard look at your workflows today and see if this hybrid approach is the game changer you've been waiting for. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and keep learning.